This is the this is the board information from Introduction to Computers and Information Systems, BCA 101. We're talking about information systems and databases. And this was from the Wednesday class. So what we reviewed, we reviewed the levels of management, levels of information. Levels of management, as we move up to the top level, we have less people, small triangle, more people in the middle, and more people first line. Nowadays this has really changed. They talk about the flattening of the organization, and we have less here in the middle. But anyway, for the convenience of talking about information systems, we'll say that the information needs to flow to different levels of information. People at some level need different information than people at another level. And so to make that more generic, we'll say the top level needs more strategic information, information that may be more summarized rather than detailed, so that they can make long-range plans. They can make long-range plans from this particular information rather than have to work with all the detail. Day in and day out work, tactical, maybe more by middle level managers, and then first line supervisors are managing the what we maybe would call more transactional information. And so like you make a transaction, you make a sale, somebody scans a gallon of milk, goes to the database, to some table, gets the price, brings the price back up. There might be or maybe not be a first line supervisor at that point. They make the transaction. Somewhere or another, inventory is updated, so our data adjusts based on the transaction, and then later on decisions can be made somewhere based on the data. We talked briefly, even though we didn't go in depth. There is so much data that there's a term now being used called big data, in which how do we manage large amounts of data. And what we want to do is we want to go from detail to summarized and somewheres in between in order to allow us to make decisions. So levels of management, workforce don't oversee anybody, but they work for some level of management. Level of managements use management information systems to pull out what they need in order to make decisions or make the company function. So, very briefly, we talked about decisions. Some decisions are very structured. When you scan the milk, it's easy for the computer to do that. It can go to some database table, get the price, bring that price back up, add up all the items, calculate the tax. If there is a tax, is it easy for it to decide what to tax and what not to tax? Yes, those are all very structured decisions, done very easily nowadays by a computer. It would be like the teacher somewheres ahead of time decides what grade levels, what percentage of the points a student has to have to get a particular grade. Then, if the grading is done in using some technology like a spreadsheet or some LMS, learning management system, it's very easy for the computer to assign the grade because we have a definite cutoff for the grades. Structured decisions. Semi-structured decisions that aren't quite as clear, where maybe we'll use lots of information to help us make that decision, like what products we're going to handle next year, and so forth. And some non-structured decisions, those could be those that it's hard for technology to make the choice. Even though we do have a lot of cool artificial intelligence that maybe helps us make those, like the bottom line on hiring an employee or advancing an employee or deciding what particular color or what particular type of clothes are going to be popular next year and so forth. Maybe a very non-structured. And then we talked about systems. And this is maybe getting more blurred nowadays, but some of the obvious ones are transaction systems that a lot of times manage that data in and out of databases. Doing a transaction, you register for a class, some information goes in, you pay your bill, some information goes in, the bill shows paid, and paid, bills unpaid, that data, managing a transaction system. And that would lead into a management information system that maybe goes in, finds the bills that are unpaid, and figures out a way to notify the people. It's like the computer. Could the computer at a library automatically send you a notice telling you your book is due? Yes, that would be a very structured decision. On this date, the book was due. Anything past that date, we automatically do a email. Or used to call your home line, which a lot of people don't have anymore. And then there's all kinds of software designed to help people make decisions, whether it's just what they call a decision support system or an executive, a top-level support systems. And we didn't talk about it today, but the next step in terms of systems is talking about a life cycle system and why we need to redo them. And I think that's good enough for the notes. I could explain this. You can have a chart, and in this case we were talking about measuring how much passed, maybe so many standard deviations beyond the mean that we can tolerate. For example, we use example pudding in a dish at the pudding plant, a craft. You know, they could be measuring that pudding, and as long as it's within some tolerance of the average, it's okay. Okay, but what we talked about is if for some reasons all of a sudden you're measuring that pudding and you get 5 measurements, maybe 5, that would be a non-structured decision. But as soon as you get 5 measurements outside the realm of that, that might tell you to stop production and look at what's going wrong because you're putting too much pudding in the dishes. So you could, that'd be maybe a semi-structured decision, how many you're going to measure that are outside the realm. And if they are all in a row, then a computer could take over and say, whoa, we got to stop, we got to check, something's wrong. Just an example. Yeah, and that's it for Wednesday, 11/21/13.